person will ask a question, and you want to ask a question which would, we need to know who he is. Wait a minute. For a person who has never known him, we want to know what kind of question would you ask him?
Where do you come from?
Mississippi.
Where were you born?
January 11th, 2002.
What part of Mississippi?
Like Plessy.
What's your age? What is your full name?
We've had this discussion before in the front seat of my car, and I make input with that name. Say it proudly.
Okay, Wilkins Dunbar Dowdy.
And Wilkins, how did you get that name? Put the microphone.
Wilkins is my great-grandmother's name. Name. And Dunbar is my aunt's name. And Dowdy is my dad's last name.
Names are very important in this family. And so Wilkins carries the legacy of so many relatives just in his name. Okay? So we know from this family that they are very intentional about preserving the name.
What is your name?
Jada.
What is your full name?
Jada Alexis Kazoo.
How did you get that name?
When I was born.
Where were you born?
At North Oaks Hospital.
Do you like pie?
Apple and pecan pie.
Okay.
Now I'm going to ask, if I might, as archivist, may I have permission to ask a question? Okay, Wilkins, what at this point in your life, have you made a decision about your future career?
I want to be an architect.
An architect, very good. Have you decided which university you want to attend?
LSU.
Very early, we will know in about 10 years. He said he wanted to go to LSU, so he's told the world now, y'all. So we're going to be looking at him going to LSU in a few years. Okay, Jada, have you made a decision about your future career?
Yes, ma'am. I would like to be a registered nurse.
Wonderful. And which school have you decided to attend?
Yale or Princeton.
Wow. Jada wants to go to Yale or Princeton. Outstanding selection. Thank you, Eric. Wait. We want Plessy and Ferguson to have an opportunity. Do you all want to ask Mr. Plessy any questions?
Really cool, and have you learned a lot from being a descendant from Mr. Other Plessy?
Yes, I think like I said, about a defining moment when I met Phoebe Ferguson. Just knowing where my ancestors came from the west coast of Africa to Bordeaux, France, and several other countries, because throughout time, the first came from West Africa, which was the 1/8 black in home of Plessy. Her name was Agnes Mathieu. She was common law wife to Matthew Devoe, who was a cannoneer for General Bernardo de Galvez, who actually in the American Revolution helped George Washington win the war. And he defended the coast where we had our oil spill, the Gulf of Mexico. He protected that for George Washington. And Homer Plessy's great-grandmother was part of it. She fathered, or she mothered, 7 children for Matthew. Amongst those 7 was a daughter named Katish who married the first Plessy that came to the United States. So I'm able to now tell you about the very beginning of my family in America. So I feel very proud and privileged to have all that information given to me because I did not do the research. But it feels great to know where I came from. Now I can define myself as an artist, which was a God-given talent that I'm able to cultivate. And this picture I held up earlier, that's my great-grandfather. Yes.
I like his mustache.
And I went to the New Orleans Center for Creative Art in high school. Briefly, that's NOCA, and everybody know about that. Briefly, I went to Southern University in New Orleans. And now I think I know what my purpose in life is. So it's to stand before you and share my information freely. And I would like to share one more thing with you. We talked about a decision earlier, a bad decision. Well, all of us have choices in life, decisions to make, and we have to live with the consequences. So if you look at the decision of Plessy versus Ferguson and what it did to our country, separated by race, it's a terrible thing because all of us sit together and we know that we're all equal in this country. So what I would say my choices were when I met Phoebe Ferguson was to either hate Phoebe Ferguson or try to be her friend. So in terms of, I'm going to use a rock star name for Dr. John over here. He made a statement about the Hatfields and McCoys. And the choice to hate caused both families to be destroyed. In our case, we have a chance for our families to live together in America because our choice was to embrace our differences and become friends. So, choices, decisions, consequences. You have a choice.
His grandfather and about it being something that he was taught. And what can you tell us about the South?
People, like, everybody, when they talk about segregation, they all make it out to be as all white people are just like that. But really, that's how they're taught. Like, if you're same reason we're taught to respect our elders, they were taught to dislike colored people.
It's a conditioning over many, many years, and sometimes it was not the choice of that person to have that lifestyle. It was forced upon them sometimes. It's proof that we had several white people in America that never wanted slavery, that never wanted any of the inequalities that existed in America. And I want to be fair, and where's my friend? Okay, so I want to turn the floor over to my friend, Phoebe Ferguson.
Yeah, Phoebe, use the mic. What are you turning it over for me for? Oh, questions. Cameron, questions. Okay, hit me. I mean, not really, just ask me a question.
Was it true that in the Constitution it said that everyone should be treated equally?
Yes, that was true. Yeah.
Yes.
It said in the Constitution, like you just said, you're supposed to be treated equally. Why did the Fergusons kind of treat Homer Plessy and not equally?
Well, after the Civil War, you know, the legislators from different states got together to write the amendments which were going to change the way people were doing things and treating each other. So the 14th Amendment was written, and it says in the Constitution that all men should be created equally and have equal rights, according to the law, and be able to have equal access to schools and everything like that. But it was, as Keith said, it was there were a lot of reasons. One of the big reasons that there was such a push to return the South in particular to a slave society or a segregated society was that the South was a cotton generating, New Orleans was the biggest port in the country in the 1840s and 50s for exporting and importing cotton and rice and indigo and sugar and lots of things. And so all of that was built on slavery. In other words, we were able to become the rich country that we are on the backs of slaves, of free labor. So what happens when labor starts to cost? When slaves were free, that meant that they were going to have to pay them for the same work that they were getting for free. So that was a big problem. And so besides just the racial feelings that some people had that one person was superior to another, there was also just the basics of economy. And they did not want to give that up. So that was part of the reasons for the Civil War also, right? So, the decisions around the 14th Amendment, creating it, and then ruling against Plessy were very complicated. And every state had a hand in it, really, and what they were going to get out of it. So it's a complicated question.
Miss Phoebe?
Yes.
The questions you're being asked are so spot on because the Constitution may have said that, but slaves were treated as 3/5 humans in that same Constitution. Remember we talked last week about 3/5? So while it said it, it didn't mean it. And it's taken us all this time to try to mean it. And it said all men are created equal in the Declaration of Independence. Does that mean women? Does that mean slaves? Does that mean American Indians? So the journey of America is to try to get it right. And the two people we have here today are part of that journey because America's strength is our ability to grow and change, just as it is for you. And I think that's why these two folks here today are heroes. It might have said it, it didn't mean it. And you all are trying to help us get it right.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I think we're all trying to get it right. Yes.
When we talk about American history and the segregation there, it makes me question, was there segregation in other countries at that point too? And who would be the higher class there? I mean, would it be their national, who was nationally from there or not? I mean, it's different in every country, so would it really be similar, just different?
Well, what do you think?
I think that some countries would have had segregation, but not all of them, because some countries were obviously ahead of us and they were figuring things out a little bit faster than we were, and maybe they were more advanced in a way.
That's true. I don't know if we have time to go into world history. But, certainly Haiti was also a three-tiered society, very similar to ours, with free people of color and slaves and white slaves as well as black slaves. And so you're absolutely right. I mean, and then if, you look at India that is a very good question, and you could study that pretty much, for the rest of your life to see, because every country had a series of class divisions. And I mean, that's really basically how we've developed as a human race.
Well, Phoebe, may I comment?